We have thousands of people who go missing every year, just here in the United States, and there's no discrimination on the missing. They are young, old, black, white, male or female, even children. It's time to stop. Here at Coles is still missing, and they've not found any new clues. It's women who are pregnant, it's women who have jobs, and it's women who have not seen even fetal abductions. Have you seen me? Welcome to my channel, everyone. Thank you so much for caring.
Hello guys, welcome to Chasing a Murder Talking News. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, also hit the like button. It would be much appreciated. So I wanted to go over a few things. And I'm kind of concerned about this Holly Courtier case. This is a woman that went missing in a national park in Utah. And I want to say, guys, I hope you all had a great weekend and holiday for Halloween. It was safe. I live in Florida, and we finally got our first blast of cold air, so it's pretty nice. And by cold air, I mean 70 degrees. That's daytime highs, and then evenings in the 57. So it's going to be a pretty cool winter, I bet, this year. So anyways, let's get back on the story. So Holly went missing. That's according to her family, but this kind of contradicts a few things that they've told us. As everyone knows, the family has not been shy to media. They have spoken to several media sources, and they've given several statements. Now, guys, I know you're used to my extreme details. That's with dates and times, but I'm not going to do that this round. I'm just going to do a roundabout because I took a break. Anyways, we know that Holly was found after going missing for 12 days. So, but we also know, according to Holly's daughter, Kaylee, she had told several news sources that her mother had lost her job as a nanny due to the coronavirus pandemic. And since she had lost her job during this pandemic, she didn't look for another job. Instead, she had actually chose to use this unexpected time off to travel the U.S. and visit national parks. Holly and her daughter Kaylee are originally from Southern California. They'd actually visited Zion National Park in Utah together just a previous month before she went missing. When everybody had took time out of their day to research this story, journalists reaching out to family members trying to help them locate this missing person, and as well as rescue teams taking time out of their day to search and rescue Holly, we find out 12 days later that she was alive, which was a good thing. Finally, a happy ending to a story. And you always hear rumors when somebody's found like this. You'll hear, oh, she was just doing it for the attention or something to that effect. And what I do is I ignore this until I start seeing proof. This is something that doesn't matter to me. There's always people out there who's going to be the negative Nancy. I think the reason for this was the fact that she had lost her job as a nanny, and then here she is traveling all over the place. She's living in a van down by the river. Just the inside thing, guys. But literally, she wasn't living in her van down by the river. They found her living by the river that runs through the park. And when they found her, we heard that she was taken off by EMT. She was put in the hospital and that she was in horrid condition. But later, we're finding out that might not be the case. We find out that she had actually walked off of this property with her family members, and her family members took her to the hospital. According to later statements by the family say that Holly was so dehydrated that she wasn't able to open her mouth hardly. According to Holly's daughter as well, she said that Her mother had actually hit her head on a tree and was disoriented after doing so. And because her mother was not able to think straight, she decided to stay by the water source that was there, the Virgin River. But according to the sheriff in that area, in Washington County, he has some questions and he has a few notes, and he has been investigating, finding out that these things just don't seem to add up. And then we find out that there is a GoFundMe out there attached to Holly. This was created by her family, and it has $12,000 in there. So we know that Holly had walked off this property herself. She was able to walk with her family. She had to stop a few times. She struggled, according to family, getting back to the car, but she got back to a car, was driven to the hospital, and she had been living without any kind of hydration or food, according to the story as we know it. But we start hearing statements from the sheriff and the rescue sergeant, people like Daryl Cushion, who noted that this river that runs through the park is toxic and unsafe to drink. And so people were taking the statement from Holly's daughter as, she was having to survive off the river. But her daughter later says that her mother's smarter than that. She didn't mean to imply that Holly drank water from the river. Holly's sister said that Holly knew better than to drink this water, and she knew it was toxic. They also tell us that Holly is an experienced hiker. She knows how to deal with these type of things. Then the family makes a statement that she would take some of that water, swish it around in her mouth, and spit it out. We also find out later on there's another issue. We find out that Holly had actually been fasting several days prior before she took this trip. And that there was even a possibility that she could plan to continue to fast while she was in the park. Excuse me, guys, the allergies. And that indeed, the fact of her fasting while hiking might have contributed to her disorientation and dehydration. Do you think? Now, according to other statements and media reports, they say that Holly did not tell her family that she was traveling to Zion. She also reportedly left her cell phone behind in California. Very strange. And that she was missing around October 6th. This is the day that she should have been reported missing. But her roommate really didn't report her missing until October 8th. So how were they able to actually track Holly and find her? So according to investigators, they were able to trace Holly to Zion National Park through the use of her credit card to purchase like the private shuttle ticket. And so what we're hearing is the sheriff is giving a lot of the credit to the park rangers and the rescue team working through there. They said that they fully support the findings of the National Park Service investigation and believe their investigation into the incident was thorough and well executed. To me, an interesting fact, we find out something interesting about this case much later. We find out that, according to her family members, they say that Holly was definitely having a mental breakdown. And the most interesting fact among that information is the fact that she had told her family that she was seeking a total disconnect from everything. She really just wanted to be alone. Holly really just had no idea that this would turn into the spectacle that it turned into. And the family claims that they just really didn't understand, Holly didn't understand what this would come to be. And one of the reasons for fasting was the fact that this was part of her spiritual journey. She wanted to connect with nature and read her Bible. And with her fasting, and on that very first day, she became pretty exhausted. And pretty much is the reason for her weakening state. But science knows that if she was that weak on the very first day, at day 12, she most likely wouldn't have been here. And there were rumors afterwards mentioning that she wanted to do a survival book on what it was like to survive. So whether or not that's true, I haven't had time to find out. So I'm just doing a quick overview, really. So once a criminal probe was opened, attached to this case of Holly, the woman from California, they are definitely seeking answers about how she survived in this wilderness nearly 2 weeks, considering the fact that she had no food or water. And now the wording for her disappearance is allegedly 2 weeks lost in this national park. And she did it with not much water, not much food, but we're not given extreme details covering those, items that she had with her. We heard that she might have had a hammock with her and that sort of thing. She had a backpack. So I'm sure the authorities there seem a bit aggravated and feel as if their trust was manipulated. So KSL reports that the Washington County Sheriff's Office announced in a news release earlier this week that they would be opening an investigation in response to numerous tips indicating this incident was possibly conceived and carried out as part of a plan to fraudulently generate money to a GoFundMe account to Holly's recovery. So, according to this article, the GoFundMe campaign was launched October 15th by one of Holly's sisters, who raised nearly $12,000 before it closed to new donations. The latest update on the fundraising page states that the intent of Holly's GoFundMe has always been to aid in the search and the recovery efforts, as well as post-recovery care. And well, I guess it's going to be interesting to see where these funds go to. I'm sure investigators are going to be watching that pretty close. But if this were me, I would probably get the money back. And if I couldn't give that money back, then I would donate it to someone else that would need it. It is not hard to see. The investigators are not happy about this story. They feel like it was a rigged story. And it's mainly to do with the fact of how she survived for that long, especially near a water source that wasn't something that would help her. It's toxic with an algae bloom. Although somebody who did have a built immunity system to such toxic water would be able to intake that source, but they're doubting that she was able to do so. I know my husband, he is in the Virgin Islands, and they did not warn people about the water there, and he had drank water. He had made coffee with the water available through, the faucet. And he was horribly ill, and he couldn't figure out why. He thought maybe it was something he was eating, maybe medication, flu, but it just kept getting worse to the point he was getting dehydrated. When he went to the emergency room, they find out that he had been drinking the water. Now, the locals there drink that water every day, and they are fine. But people like my husband, who are used to drinking, very pure water, it made him deathly ill. So the fact that if she was to drink that water, it most likely would make her very sick. Now, something that raises the red flag for me is the fact that she was so sick out there that she wasn't able to open her mouth. I mean, she was that dehydrated. Yet, when rescue crews come out there, they say that she's in pretty good physical condition. Considering the fact that she's out there for 2 weeks, nearly 2 weeks, guys, without any food or water, but she didn't require an ambulance. And there's also another red flag. The family said that she had injured her head, but we have yet to hear, doctors say, yeah, she had a concussion or anything like that. But guys, I'm not doing this to knock her, but I'm doing it to show that if this was the case, people are going to keep up, and it's not something people will be happy to see or support. Now, she could have had just an innocent thought that I'm just wanting to get away from everything, because she did lose her job. This year has been a mess for everybody. And I think all of us have hit that state, the mental state, where we're kind of not at our best. It's not the best time for our people here in the United States. We are losing jobs. Many of us have lost jobs through this. There's people losing homes. And like any time that our country goes through a crisis like this, our government doesn't care about the people who are suffering. They just like to distract. And they do that through politics by causing discrepancies, fighting amongst each other, by bringing up these very simple, irrelevant topics that they know will set people off. And these people fall for it almost every time. This takes people away from the true problems that America faces, like all these people who are losing everything because of this pandemic. Now, some of us were not touched, but there's a lot of people who have been touched, and they are suffering, guys, and there's no help for them. They're trying to say, look, the government's saying there's something there for us, but we're not seeing it. And what they are handing out isn't enough to help. So if you think about this woman, she lost her job. It's hard to find another job right now. I mean, the schools are dealing with teacher losses. Nurses are not coming back to the school system when they open back up this year, because they're all afraid to deal with this pandemic. So maybe she was trying to go out there and find herself. She lost her job. She had no money. She's living in her van. Maybe it was innocent. We don't know. Maybe she was so stressed that she just wasn't thinking straight. Regardless, guys, I don't know the truth of this, but I was just happy that we had a story where a woman was okay, because it could have went a different way. Hopefully it's not a scam or a fraud, but it doesn't look so good when you look at the statements and compare the evidence. Anyways, guys, I know a lot of you are suffering this year and dealing with a lot of illnesses, money, financial issues, and of course the pandemic. Just hang in there, guys. It will get better. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon.